Letterman, can you give me the ability to share my screen so I can show a PowerPoint presentation when the time's right?
I'm not the host yet. If I think Josue is behind the Focus logo. Josue, if you could make me the host and also give TJ the ability to share.
You should be all set for sharing.
All right. So the time's now 5:35, and we do have quorum. So I think we should get started, and then we will see who else joins. So, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilor Perez,
Present.
present. Councilor Letterman,
Present.
present. Councilor Curran, absent. Councilor Walsh,
Present.
present. Councilor Brown, absent. Councilor Davila,
Present.
present. Councilor Hurst,
Present.
present. Councilor Edwards,
Present.
present. Councilor Allen,
Present.
present. Councilor Govan, absent. Councilor Fenton.
Present, but I believe Councilor Govan is here. She may just be on. Well, she was. I guess
I
not.
believe he has logged off.
Okay, sorry.
Councilor Whitfield, absent. Councilor Williams, absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, can you please call the first item on the agenda?
The first item is an informational item for the pension obligation bonds.
Thank you. TJ's here to speak on that. TJ, the floor is yours. TJ, just before you get started, Councilor Govan has rejoined. So, Madam Clerk, can you please recognize Councilor Govan?
Councilor Govan,
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm here. I had to log back in. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. TJ, the floor is yours. TJ, if you're talking, you're muted.
All right, better now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. So tonight, the finance team and I are gonna present to you the concept of pension obligation bonds. The city has a unique opportunity to make a tremendous strides with our pension system by taking advantage of historic low rates and the investments of the market. And I'll get into some of those details and go through. So today I'm going to present, kind of what the pension obligation bond is, potential benefits, the risks, the credit rating agencies, and kind of what we would need to do as a community in order to move forward with issuing debt. So just to remind, our pension system is funded. We have an unfunded actuarial liability that is approaching north of $900 million. And that is something that I know we've had a lot of conversations about as the city council and the administration on kind of how we trying to grapple with all of those high costs and the increase of the pension system, pension fund that we have to do, the strain it creates on the budget. So pension obligation bonds allows us to sell debt at hopefully between 2% and 3% and put that debt into the proceeds into the pension system and allow the pension system to earn interest on it while it's invested with PRIT at the state. So the process of it, you can see the two charts is right now we fund the normal cost of the retirement system plus the unfunded liability piece directly to the retirement system. That would allow that goes directly to the state who invests it on our behalf. What we're proposing, if everything works out, is that we sell debt on a taxable basis, fund the retirement system, and then pay the debt service, which will have budgetary savings overall. Now, right now, we are looking at, like I said, about 900 million or so potentially of our actuarial liability. So this is our current schedule, and this is you'll notice in fiscal 23, where the city, the Water and Sewer Commission, and the entire pension system needs to be funded at $93 million. It has been going up around 9% every year as a way to try to get out ahead of some of the underfunded issues that happened in the past. So the concept on this chart is the blue is what we would pay if we're paying the system directly. The yellow is the estimated debt service payment, which is less than the payment. So there's budgetary savings and budgetary relief that allows us to do this. So why are we looking at potentially doing pension obligation bonds? Right now, the bond market is at historic low rates. Brockton and Quincy just sold their debt for about 2.62%, and with a return on investment expected to be over 6, 7, or 8%. And then potential annual savings. Some models we looked at had the city saving up to 20 million a year on average towards budgetary relief to free up for other city purposes. Timing of POBs is essential. Right now, we know the Fed is looking to meet in March to potentially raise interest rates. We know that they're looking potentially raise them again in June. So my team and I have roughly probably 6, 8 months worth of work to do in like 3 months to make sure that we time it right. POBs have been around for a long time, so they're not new, but it is not to say they're without risk, and that's what I'll get into a little bit tonight. Benefits of a POB: the pension plan's better funded, the budgetary relief up to $20 million a year potential savings. We have substantial increase in our amortization schedule, and the savings we've realized. And we actually will invest all the bond proceeds immediately and go from 30% funded to nearly 100% funded if we sell the debt. Risks. Once you're locked in with debt service, there's nothing you can do. You have to pay your debt service. So there's not as much flexibility when you lock in the amount you sell and how long you have to pay it back. The amortization schedule can be a little bit of flexible because you can revisit that. Neutral credit rating impact. Standard & Poor's and Moody's are not overly thrilled with this unless it's part of our overall plan to address our underlying retirement portfolio needs. And then we invest the proceeds. Risks. The anticipation of the market being able to return, 6, 10, 8%, whatever it may be, is a risk. So that if the risk or if the market doesn't return and has a small correction, if it's not too long, we can weather it. If not, we'd have to have a risk mitigation strategy. And and then I mentioned the rating agencies are agnostic to pension obligation bonds, but we'll know more about the rating agencies once we meet with them at the end of February for our normal debt issuance. This is just kind of what both Moody's and Standard & Poor's have said about pension obligation bonds. And I can send this out to everyone so they have it. It's just kind of saying that they're risky and everyone that's doing it should know that it should be part of an overall finance strategy that fits into the municipality's needs. Same here. So these are the communities that are allowed to, authorized by the legislature to issue pension obligation bonds. 5 of them have done it. We have been authorized since 2002 to look at it. We examined it closely in 2007, 2008. The timing wasn't right, so we didn't do it. And now we think the timing may be right to do it. Quincy just issued 475 million and Brockton just issued like 300 million. So they've done a lot of the extra heavy lifting. So what needs to happen kind of as of going forward? We have a working group that has been created that is Pat Burns, Chris Caputo, Lindsay Hackett, myself, plus outside experts in the form of financial advisors through Hilltop Securities, bond counsel experts through Lock Lord out of Boston, and our actuaries, KMS actuaries, doing all of our actuarial analysis. So we develop a plan of finance or a financial plan. We develop a risk mitigation strategy that we present to the public and to the council. I had an initial meeting with ANF and DOR just to let them know that we are looking to potentially sell debt. And we will come to the city council when the time is right for authorization to sell the debt. And we update our actuarial studies pretty regularly up until the day of sale, which we hope will be around June. We will get final approval from PARAC and DOR and ANF. We will release RFPs to get underwriters to help us sell our debt. And then we price the bonds and invest the proceeds. So this is all the stuff that needs to happen, say by June 1st. So it's well underway and we have not made a decision, the go or no go decision yet. And that's the concept. So in reality, what does it look like? It looks like what we'll be asking the council is to authorize the sale of up to $900 million or more to fully fund our pension liability and invest the proceeds with a return on investment that would then pay off the provide savings, and the savings I've seen in models anywhere from 200 million or more from our appropriation is real budgetary savings. And again, we're not there. We're doing all the due diligence. We're watching the market in terms of municipal bond rates. And we're also watching the market in terms of investments and how stocks and those mutual funds and stuff are doing. We do not invest our money. That is done through the state. And I believe they're at 10% or higher over the last 10 years or 20 years. So we're confident that the return on investment will be there, but this is not without some risk. I'll take any questions. I know it's a lot, it's a big concept, but I'll take any questions.
Thank you, TJ. We'll go first to Councilor Edwards, followed by Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, TJ. I really appreciate the presentation. I got 3 things. First, you mentioned the risk, but you also talked about, I guess I'd probably like to hear a little bit more about the risk, but you said it's up to $20 million potential in savings. Would that $20 million then go back into, would it be available to us as a city to spend somewhere else, or would we be able to use that $20 million to keep ourselves, to help reduce the debt that we owe?
So that's an excellent question. The savings is budgetary savings is real. And what we would need to do is set aside a portion of the first $20 million in savings, probably into a stabilization fund to weather market corrections and potential downturns. And then once that once the risk mitigation strategy is done and approved and implemented, the savings can then be reinvested for other purposes. So for example, Quincy is putting it into capital improvements that have deferred maintenance that they've had for the last decade or so, that they're spending all their savings on capital improvements because that's where their biggest need is.
Okay. And then the second question was, you mentioned the bond companies not being overly excited about this unless it was all part of an overall comprehensive plan. Would our presentation or our proposal be part of a comprehensive plan?
Yes, it will be. So what I will so I'm meeting with Standard & Poor's and Moody's the end of February to do our regular debt. We are gonna talk to them about the strategy and feel them out. They were 100% fine with Quincy. They really enjoyed like Brockton's approach. So we think they're warming up to it. And, you know, quite frankly, they comment on our underfunded pension system quite frequently in their reports for us. And this would be a way for us to address that. And what they're going to want to see is what the council is going to want to see is the risk mitigation strategy on how do we deal with it if things don't turn out exactly as planned. And I have to do all that work and due diligence in order to get it approved by you as a council body and then by the state and Department of Revenue and A&F. So all of this stuff has to be very publicly shared and deliberated for. I guess the biggest thing is we have to all be in lockstep to make this work. And I will be before the council any chance, anytime you need me to talk about this. I will also be bringing in our experts to present as well as we get further down the road on modeling out what this actually looks like and showing real numbers of real savings.
Okay, I've heard a sufficient amount. I hope to hear more from some of the questions my colleagues. So I'll stop at this point. And thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to hear it.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Madam Clerk, can you please recognize Councilor Whitfield?
Councillor Whitfield,
Present.
Thank you. Councilor Fenton, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Counselor Letterman. TJ, this sounds like a real big savings that could be for the city. I have a few questions though. Why 900 million?
Well, that's pretty much what we owe for our actual liability for the unfunded portion of our liability.
Did we give any thought to mitigating the risk a little bit by not going for the whole enchilada and fully funding?
So yes, that's all the stuff that the working group is doing now, is working through scenarios, what makes sense. And that's when we'll come up with a full-on game plan to present to the city council. Because maybe the number is 500 million, maybe it's 700 million, and looking at that. So we're going to model all that with our actuaries and make a lot of different assumptions that we will let the city council know what we're thinking.
Okay, and then just, you know, in layperson's terms, so I make sure I understand it. Let's say the number is 900 million you decide to request. We bond for 900 million. We owe now a specific debt service obligation on that 900 million. We're gonna, the interest rate on it, let's just call it 3. Your idea is take that 900 million of cash, invest it, and then we'll get more than 3 in the market based on past history. And correct. That difference, that delta is the millions in dollars of savings that you're referencing.
Correct.
So I have one final question. What if we did, let's just pick a number, say it's 900 million, and this money comes in to the city as a result of the bond proceeds, what will the purpose of the bond proceeds be described as in the pension obligation bond? Meaning, what's to stop the city or any decision maker from spending it on something other than pension obligations? Because I heard you say Brockton spent it on infrastructure.
No, that's a savings. So we would add it to our debt service as, right now we pay what, 30 million-ish in debt service for all the capital debt. Mm-hmm. This would be saying 50 million dedicated a year till 2040 or 2035, whatever year we pick, that's dedicated to paying it down. So instead of paying 75 million or 90 million into the pension system directly, we'll be paying 51 million or 50 million into the debt service.
And then the 900 that comes in is restricted in what way? It
It is-
must be invested?
It's in the system invested by PRIT. And we are now showing that our pension fund is nearly fully funded.
I see.
So instead of going being 30% funded, we'll be 90% funded, whatever the number, 95% funded. And we're able to reinvest those savings.
I see. Okay, I understand. So,
It's a difficult concept, I get it. Throwing out there the idea of issuing nearly $1 billion, I figured you guys would laugh at me first before we really got into it. So I understand it is not an easy concept, so I will be here explaining and working through it as often as you need.
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fenton, Councillor Davila, followed by Councillor Whitfield.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Good evening, TJ. Thank you for your presentation. So I think Councilor Fenton has some of the questions I was going to ask, but I'm just going to see if I can summarize it in my own terms. And please correct me if I'm mistaken, TJ. So we want to bond out $900 million, and that's going to put the pension obligation to close to 95% funded. The savings of that, or the delta between the interest, will be roughly about $20 million a year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, it's not the interest per se. The interest will help us with addressing the future needs of our pension system. But what the real savings is the variance between our normal schedule, our schedule that we're paying as today, going up 9%,
Yep.
and then locking it into a payment at, a set amount for the next till 2040.
Good. So the benefit is that we're going to have a close to funded pension obligation to our retirees. The risk, however, are that our credit might be impacted negatively, correct?
Not sure yet. I think if we present a nice, strong, united front to the rating agencies, I don't think it'll have the negative impact that I think it'll have, but just in history, pension obligation bonds were cautioned.
Okay. So right now, is it minus AA that we have right now?
Yes, AA-.
Okay. All right. And would you care to make an estimation how much we could be impacted, or we just don't know yet?
I wouldn't know until I'll know more in 2 weeks when I meet with the rating agencies.
Right.
I'll know more.
Right. Now, TJ, you talked about the $20 million could be reinvested. And you talked about putting it into a stabilization fund, which sounds like a very sound strategy to me, of course. But how long do we have to wait before we can make those savings liquid and fluent for expenditure?
We'll have other money available as part of the savings through the years.
Mhm.
I'm asking most likely, I don't know yet, I most likely will be asking for a one-time infusion of 1 year's savings into this reserve fund, and that allows us to just shore up against any market changes
Right.
to make sure.
Gotcha.
Then going forward, the savings would then be reinvested into services or the city's needs.
Okay. Now, is the bond market really changing to our advantage?
Yeah, so taxable debt is just over 2.62%.
Mhm.
That is unheard of for the city of Quincy. That happened just in December. So
Gotcha.
we're getting in around 3%, and our return on investments around 7 to 8% or more. We're doing pretty well.
Very well. TJ, you're right. This is a big concept. Like you're right, $900 million, it's a heck of a lot of money. And so I thank you for giving us this initial presentation. I also look forward to a robust conversation on this. And my final question for now, TJ, is there any other bond that we might be hearing in the future?
Well, right now we're going to the market to sell everything that's been authorized up through last Monday. So that's what, 68 million, Lindsay, roughly, is what we're selling in the market in March.
Right, because we bonded $8 million yesterday for DPW.
Correct, and that's all gonna be sold, because the rates are so low, normally we would sell after the projects are done and the vehicles are here. But because rates are so low, we wanna take advantage of it and sell as much as we can at 2%, as opposed to them going up to 4% in a year from now.
Well, TJ, I'm gonna finish with this. Thank you for your presentation. As I mentioned, I look forward to a robust conversation. We do have a moral obligation, I'll say many times before, to ensure that our retirees receive their just compensation after dedicating the time to the service. However, it's no surprise that I have been talking about the police department. They cannot meet accreditation. We need to talk about that later. How we're going to get a new police department. We talked about briefly in the past. I was told it's not the right time then. I'm hoping that it's the right time now. And so I look forward as a comprehensive plan, because we have a lot of money we need to use wisely, and they need a police department in new stations so that we can finally get accredited. With that, I look forward to talking to you more and to your team, TJ. And again, good concept. Thank you.
So we did do a study on the police station, Counselor, and
Yeah.
that is one of our top priorities is the police station replacement. And so I'm looking to the state for assistance. I'm looking for grants for assistance. It's $100 million in growing price tag. So
Do you have a timeline for the study?
the study, I think, was done 3 years ago. I can get a copy of it. Pete already has a copy of it.
Yeah. Well, I look forward. I don't want to tie up that conversation on this particular subject.
No, I got you.
I look forward to that, because where I'm sitting is, bonds are starting to go out. So I want to make sure that that we have the best police department. Thank you, TJ. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Councilor Letterman. Those are my words.
Thank you, Councilor Davila, Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Allen.
Mr. Chair, TJ, I missed some stuff, so I'm gonna be real brief. What is the total amount of the debt we have?
That we might be asking the council to authorize would be anywhere up to 900 million or more.
No, not for the obligation. How much are we in debt currently?
Debt service is the principal interest, I think is around 30 million. I don't know, Lindsay, do you have that number?
Do you mean the total outstanding debt, Counselor, that we currently have?
Yes.
Over $200 million.
Oh, no, not the bond debt. I'm sorry. I think TJ was right. How much we owe to the pension?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we owe $900 million.
Oh, we owe $900 million to the pension. Does that include OPEB?
That does not include OPEB. We get pay as you go, and we're starting to figure out a way to address the OPEB. That liability is about $1.5 billion. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pat Burns.
Fortunately, you're correct.
Thank you. I don't like being right on that one.
$1.5 billion, dang, okay. And so the 20 million, so this bond is for what? I'm sorry about the background noise. This bond is for what amount of time?
What
period? Is it a 30-year bond?
No, the max it can go out right now per ANF is 2040, because that's the max of debt schedule can go, the funding schedule. We need to be fully funded by 2040, the latest. And so we're gonna run models that looks at it as 2033, all the way to 2040. So that's kind of really, we would like to go beyond and do 20 or 30-year debt, but ANF said no, they wouldn't approve it at that rate because the law is 2040.
And how much will we be paying back annually at the rate and the time?
I will say roughly 50 million, but we would model all that as well as we structure the sale.
Okay, and then lastly, that 20 million in savings, is that over the life of the bond?
No, over the life of the bond, it could be anywhere between 200 and 250 million in savings.
Savings as far as like we would be paying more if we just paid it on our own into the pension debt?
Correct. So having the stabilized pension debt service payment as opposed to the 9% increase every year in pension retirement system is where the savings really comes in.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Counselor Whitfield, Counselor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. Vice President, President. Thanks, TJ. A few questions that I was going to ask have been asked and answered well, I think. One of my questions that Counselor Whitfield just asked was kind of how I was, my thing says, how long does it extend? And I think you said it would go to 2040 at the most. So that's 18 years kind of paying back. Am I right on that?
Correct.
Okay. And right now the pension is funded, if I'm not mistaken, if we kept up the horrendously high payments that it's going to get to, if we kept that, we would be fully funded in 2034 or 2035. Am I correct?
Pat, is it 2033 now?
It's 2033 would be the last unfunded liability payment on our current schedule, but we're due to adopt a new funding schedule this spring. So the numbers will change when the actuary is done with their analysis.
Okay, but 233, 34, thank you, Pat. I mean, we always thought in the conversations I've had with you that, we might have to do this again and extend it out to 2040 if we kept paying on our own. That was always kind of the elephant in the room, that because the annual payments are getting so high, over 100 million or whatever. So that's okay. But if we did it for the 18 years from 22 to 40, it would extend based on what we have now, and knowing that there's a new funding schedule being proposed in the spring. It would extend our payments out a few years, which is, I'm not trying to say that's bad. I'm just trying to say it is what it is. When you borrow stuff, it sometimes extends your term. But that's what I'm understanding. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so as Mr. Burns alluded to, we will be asking and looking at a different funding schedule starting next year. We committed to the 3-year schedule. We do a 3-year commitment every year. That's when we got into the 14 plus 2.9% increases recently. But there is some areas, that's kind of where I got into the flexibility. We have more flexibility with the funding the liability through our appropriation in terms of massaging it as opposed to debt service. But the numbers keep growing to a point that pose a lot of strain on the budget.
Oh, I know. I mean, I was looking at those numbers, 57 million, I think was the next year or something for the city side. So no, it's great. It's great thinking to be thinking about this and to have, a good draft proposal of it. So my question is, what makes the idea go bad? You have talked about timing and, the Fed and the interest rates and stuff. At what, I mean, I don't even want to have you predict what interest rates are going to be, but what would make the idea not be as attractive if interest rate?
Yeah, if interest rates grow to a point where it's say 4%, 5%, and our return on investment is supposed to be 7%, that delta or that gap has a lot more risk to it. So what we want to do is sell at 3% and then invest at 8 to 10% to give us that comfort to get that return on investment through the years. If the market crashes and we get less than, say, 3% for a number of years, then we have a problem.
Then we have a problem. Yeah, okay.
That problem would be still gonna pay your debt service, and then you still have an unfunded actual liability. You gotta now pay both.
Yeah. Okay. So at interest rates now are somewhere around 2 or 3. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so Brockton and 2.6% of what Brockton and Quincy sold for.
All right, great. And if they're investing at 7 or 8. Okay, so you guys are keep an eye on that. And hopefully it stays good. Would we still have a pension payment, a small one for that remaining 5%? Would we still have to, would we?
We'll always have a pension payment for the normal cost. I don't know, Pat, if you want to talk about, we're always going to have a 15 million-ish number or whatever for the normal cost. That's not the unfunded liability portion.
Okay.
And also we have what they call a net 38C payment, which is basically payments we owe to other retirement systems. So if let's say I was a paraprofessional for 15 years and I left the Springfield retirement system, became a teacher, and I went to the Mass Teachers Retirement System, we're assessed a portion of the pension when that person retires. And Springfield's in a position where we pay out much more than we receive. So that payment would also still be factored into our yearly appropriation payment along with the normal costs that TJ mentioned.
Okay, so for active employees, there could still be a liability there. I mean, but for people who've already retired and already collecting their pension plan, their monthly pension, that's the unfunded liability people. Am I right?
Correct. And it could also have a portion to do with active employees in years that we didn't meet our expected rate of return.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure you guys got an eye on that. Okay. That's it for me for now. Thank you. Great work, great thinking, and great idea for us to work on. Thank you.
Counselor Walsh.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a lot to digest. Now, City Council's approval is needed for you to do this. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the best thing to make these investment or the authorization of the debt is for all of us to be in lockstep on the strategy and the plan and what the risks are. And I would need the city council to authorize it.
Do you need a unanimous vote on this? Does that make a difference?
I do not need a unanimous vote. However, I'd like one, but I do not need one to get it done. I think I just need a 2/3 majority.
Okay, so I think you mentioned that this pension obligation bond, it's been around for a while.
It has.
Yeah. So why are you looking at it seriously now? Is it the interest rates or is,
It's market timing. I wish I looked at it 2 months prior to starting in October, just to be a little further along because the rates could go up fast. But having said that, municipal bond rates are the lowest they've been in years, and the market returns have been tremendous on Wall Street, and those two things together make it ideal timing.
Okay, well, I think all my other questions that have been asked, like the one I was interested in, Council Edwards asked about, where do the savings go?
And that we can decide collectively how to address the savings issues, and that'll all be part of the plan because ANF's going to want to know what is in the city. And that's what I mean. We have to have all of us in lockstep.
Okay. And you have a committee looking into this, did you say?
Yeah, so right now our internal committee is Lindsay, Pat Burns, Chris Caputo, and then we added in lawyers from Boston and Locke Lord, Rick Manley, who's been our attorney for years, Cinda McNerney from Hilltop Securities, and then Linda Borneval, who is KMS Actuaries, are all on this.
You don't want to reach out to the city council to have a representative since they.
I have no problem having a representative from the city council on something that is this big and this important.
Well, especially since we're going to be voting on it.
I have no problem. I've had that conversation with the mayor when I presented this concept to him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
We meet weekly right now, Wednesdays at 11. That's set in stone, but that can always be moved to accommodate schedules. Even if we don't have a lot to talk about, we still hold it on the calendar to make sure we get together and talk about anything market changing or anything that we have that we raise to each other. So.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Councilor Edelman. Just like a quick comment to follow up on Councilor Walsh idea of having a representative for the city council. I think I second that. I think it would be great line to keep the communications open, because this is I'm going to use the word transformative, as being used before by TJ himself. And so TJ, I'm glad that you're open to it. I hope the mayor's open to having a representative. I think it will iron out a lot of the kinks and a lot of the potential, so we don't end up with, a lot of issues at the end. And so I just want to make a comment that I second that, and I hope the mayor makes that agreement under the president says to it that is fit. Thank you, Councilor Letman.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Are there any further questions for TJ relative to his presentation? Seeing none, there's no vote needed on this, but I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the near future. So TJ, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just thank you. I know it's a big concept, and I'll be meeting with you as often as necessary to keep you apprised. The final piece is, if anything changes in the decision not to go, not to sell, then we just pull the plug, and at least we've done the due diligence.
Thank you very much. And I would just add, I'd like to see included in some of the estimates how this would affect the total levy year to year, and any possible tax relief that could be provided as a result of the savings.
Yep, we'll look at all different ideas. I've got a few ideas floating around my head about different things, so.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further questions, Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item?
All right, I'm taking off. Good luck.
Thank you, TJ.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
The next item is actually the executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation strategy relative to Superior Court Civil Action number 2179 CV00203, where the president of the city council has determined that the discussion in open session will detrimentally impact the litigating position of the public body.
Is there a motion? Oh, go ahead, Madam.
Just to note that we're going to reconvene in open session.
Is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Walsh for the reasons stated by the clerk, seconded by Councilor Perez. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on entering executive session.
Councilor Perez?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran, absent. Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown, absent. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Govan, absent. Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield? Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams, absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Votes are sufficient. Councilor Edwards, you have a question?
Yes. Same link.
It should be a link included with the same email that had this link that should say executive session link.
Okay.
Does everybody have that link?
Oh, we have to switch to a new link?
We have
Yes.
to switch to a new link. I will resend the link right now
I think-
for anybody that does not have it, and we will meet on that link. For anybody watching the broadcast will currently end, but it will reconvene when we re-enter open session.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. All right. Appears quorum is present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're back from executive session. Are there any motions to be laid on the table, Councilor Fenton?
Make a motion that we continue this matter to February 28th.
Second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on continuing the item.
On continuing the item, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Kern, absent. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown, absent. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Govan, absent. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield, absent. Counselor Williams, absent.
Madam Clerk, thank you. The votes are sufficient and the item is continued. Are there any other matters properly brought before the council at this time?
There are no others, no.
Then we will stand
Counselor-
adjourned. Thank you.
Counselors, thank you for your time. I appreciate all your time and patience. Sorry if I was long-winded. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Moore.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Moore.
Take care, everybody. Take care
Thank
now.
you. Thank you. Thank you.